BlogTalk Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Chrism, and I'd like to welcome you to a conversation about your Kundalini awakening experience. Just to start out here, could any of the people that are listening in the chat room, can you let us know how the sound is coming? There should be a little bit of a static behind the voice, but the voice should be coming through clearly. So if somebody in the chat room could write this out, it would be very, very appreciative. Thank you. Today we're going to talk about the different polarities of good and evil, and this is what the Kundalini in me wants us to discuss today with the Kundalini in you. And before we get started with that, however, I would like to let people know that on YouTube, you can go to chrism.kundalini, and all 275 videos will come up, and I would like to invite you to partake of those videos. If you wish to go to a website, go to Kundalini Awakening System, #1.com, and there you'll find the website that Glenn Ola has designed and maintained, and I'd like to say a heartfelt thank you to Glenn Ola for doing that, for not only for this information, but for the people receiving this information. If you'd like to visit us on Facebook, we have Kundalini Awakening ! And you can feel free to join that group. You can also join Kundalini Healing. We also have one called a Kundalini Ashram that a person can join. If you're interested in the Yahoo networks, we have the Kundalini Awakening Systems, #1 at yahoogroups.com, and we also have a Kundalini Healing on the Yahoo Groups network, so you can also go there as well. If you'd like to leave a donation to help us continue this work, then go to hang on a second here. Go to Ascension-Kundalini, or Ascension, ASCENSION Kundalini, KUNDALINI. And we can accept your donation through the PayPal button that's there. So much appreciated for anyone who has given a donation or would be planning on doing so in the future. Thank you to all of you. So I haven't received any kind of information about the sound from our wonderful users on the chat room here. That would be guest 1678, 1710, 1727, and 1740. Could one of you please let me know how the sound quality is, so that, you know, we can take any corrections that we may encounter. It doesn't look like anybody's too anxious to just write into the guest area here, so I'll just presume that things are going well. We are having seminars. We have a seminar scheduled for New York on the weekend of the 21st of March, and we also have one a week later in Ireland. And this would be in the same place that we had the last seminar in Ireland, which is right next to Newgrange. So it's a very nice place. It's a very beautiful place to have a Kundalini Awakening seminar. And the sound is very good. Well, thank you. Jeez, it's like pulling teeth here. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, guest KAS1 guest person. I believe that would be Amelia. Amelia is not able to join us today due to technical glitches with Skype. She typically joins me here in the studio, and she's unable to join with me here in the studio, but I think she's with us in the chat room. So much appreciation to Amelia Santara and her husband John and her children, and the dog Chance and the kitty cat Shakti, and all her various relatives and friends. So much appreciation to Amelia and her entourage. So let's get going with the nature of good and evil in regards to Kundalini. Well, one of the first things is there is no evil. I know that's a rough one to swallow when you look in the news or you see around you people doing bad things. So in that way, yes, there is evil. But in a larger context, the Kundalini basically sees bad things humans do to other humans as opportunities in learning how not to treat each other. So even though the bad person is doing a bad thing to another person, it's not to be seen as a reason for revenge or a reason for getbacks or anything like that. It's to be seen as a learning equation, not to get pulled into the emotions of it all. And I want to say to Tim Ashworth, thank you for writing me about the sound quality. Thank you very much. So if we're able, and it's very difficult not to get wrapped up into the emotional body, because the emotional body is going to be injured right along with the physical body. Okay, and the ego is going to rush into both of those injuries and give out a yell. So yeah, I understand that when we see this on a regular 24-hour, 7-day-a-week type of situation in our mundane lives, we see that and we interpret that as something evil, not as something that is teaching us not to be. Oh boy, what did I do here? Hang on a second. Oh boy. There we are. Yeah, not to get tied up into these types of pressurized situations. So active injury. Active injury 101 is when, we'll talk about 5-year-olds, when a 5-year-old hits another 5-year-old. And we teach them, that's not the right thing to do. You need to apologize. And how would you feel if somebody hit you that way? And, and all of these things. Well, as I may have mentioned in previous programs, human emotional body development stops at around the age of 12 or 13 in men and maybe a little bit later in women. Either way, it's not a very strong, shall we say, evolution compared to, say, the body, the physical body. So with the physical body, you have this really, really fast development, and yet with the emotional body, it's not so fast. And the emotional body is pretty much held in control by the ego body, especially at the age of 5. Okay? But as we mature into adult human females and males, our emotional body typically, and I can't say absolutist anything, but typically the emotional body is far behind, extremely far behind the physical body or the mental body or the spiritual body, and certainly behind the ego body. And so this gives rise to the emotions of retribution, of revenge, of vindictive activities. And so this is something that you need to look at now as you're in your mundane lives. I mean, all of you are, at least on the chat group, you're calling in from different areas, different states of the United States, different countries of this earth. And only you really know, honestly, how your emotional body has developed or maybe needs to have more development. It's very important. The Kundalini sees almost all negativity from the highest vantage point. Well, okay, what is this negative action teaching Chrism? Let's see how he responds. So we'll say a guest 1710 does something really mean to me or whatever, and it's like, whoa, what does he do? How does he respond? How does he show? How does he express and demonstrate the fact that he is not taking this into the emotional body the way that he once would have? It would have been if you hit me, I'm going to hit you right back, just so that you know that it's not okay to hit me. And the Kundalini is looking for a different response, a forgiving response. But there is always the caveat: is just because you're Kundalini awakened, you're being forgiving, and you're being, non-judgmental in these types of scenarios, doesn't make you a doormat. People don't get to wipe their ego-based feet on you just because you're being nice. Okay? And that's another, there's a different lesson involved with that, which I'll get to later on in this conversation. I would like to say hello to Celestial Rubies and Fashji. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us in this conversation today. Once again, since some of you came in a bit late, this is a conversation about the Kundalini nature of good versus evil. Okay? And, in these conversations, I want to stress that I am taking this from a Kundalini perspective, not a public school perspective or grandma and grandpa perspective or, Montessori teaching perspective or any of these other perspectives. I'm taking it strictly from a Kundalini awakened perspective. And when you come to Kundalini awakening, your perspective is a big deal. It's almost like you could have the perspective body of a person, because perspective is really how you're going to be able to deal with the Kundalini in a very positive and beneficial way for yourself. You have the ability to change your perspective. And having the ability to change the perspective is a huge deal, because that basically makes you able to change the channel when you want to. Okay, you can expand your perspective into one of forgiveness. You can expand your perspective into one of just not letting whatever happens bother you. You can expand your perspective into taking it as a teaching and how you don't want to do whatever is being done to you for another person. And so there are many, many positive learning and educational angles that can be explored within the Kundalini awakening perspective on the nature of good versus evil. You'll note that in the safeties, I'm pretty much promoting a positive expression based in love, based in joy, based in forgiveness, based in tolerance and patience and trust. I push these qualities. And the reason why, it's not because I don't understand the Tao and that everything, in existence has its positive polarity and its negative polarity, and that the Kundalini people are basically walking on the edge of that coin. And we stretch out our arms as we walk the edge of that coin, and one arm will go out over the negative polarity, and another arm will go out of the positive polarity. They are all one. But one also needs to remember that we are not just on this planet to recognize the Tao. Well, we've already done that. The yin-yang, we understand, at least from a broad platform, that, certain qualities are attached to the yin and certain qualities are attached to the yang, and they're in a constant, perpetual motion through the, shall we just call it, the two water droplets with eyes. And that in In the dark water droplet, well, it has the white eye. And in the white water droplet, well, it has the dark eye. Okay, so we have aspects of each in both polarities. Now, with the Kundalini, you're given the opportunity to experience extreme levels of hardship and extreme levels of love and joy. And it's very important for a person in the Kundalini awakening situation to begin to make concrete decisions that are based away from negative responses, away from injurious, self-hurtful validations based upon somebody else's opinion about you. Okay? You don't need to buy into those stories. Okay? You don't need to be the target of physical, emotional, or mental abuse. Okay? And I just want to, I want to let you know that Amelia has been trying over and over and over to get on, and she's just not being able to make it. And I just want to honor her for the attempt, and to let you know, Amelia, that you can listen on the computer if you like. You don't have to keep trying to sign in. I would remind you of the difficulties you've had in the past signing in on the laptop with your iPad turned on. Okay, I don't have that issue here in the States, but I think you've had it there in Ireland before. So now, getting back to the conversation, I really do support the positive effects of selfless service, of forgiveness, of love, of trust, of confidence, of competence. Many of all of the safeties I support completely, and there's a reason why. You may not have noticed, but there's an extreme amount of negativity that is permeated through the populations of this world. Now, I've gone to different countries on this world. I haven't been to Asia or Australia yet, or Africa or India, but I have been to South America, the United States, and Europe. And in those three continents, there's quite a level of negativity that's being expressed. But there's also a strong level of positivity that is also being stressed and expressed by people in those continents. I mean, I found helpful people all over the world where I've traveled. They're not perfect people, but they're very, very helpful people. But for a Kundalini person, because we are so extremely sensitive, we have to take a change, a conscious change in how we approach and ingest certain levels of emotional trauma. Whether it's, somebody hit you, or somebody said something badly about you, or somebody told a lie, or somebody did whatever. We have to remember that because of the level of evolution in our emotional body, which I talked about earlier, is so far behind the rest of our bodies that we need to make a concerted effort to be forgiving, to not reach for revenge. And so, of course, when the Kundalini was writing the safeties and educating me about the safeties, one of the first safeties it came up with was forgiveness. Forgiveness is huge. Forgiveness not only heals the person that's been harmed, but it also gives the person that's done the harm an opportunity to heal themselves as well. All the positivities that are espoused in the safeties have a negative counterpart in the difficulties of life. You can just go right down the list. Forgiving, well, that's unforgiving. Trusting, well, then untrusting. Et cetera, and so forth. And so for us, as Kundalini people, we need to reach for the forgiveness first. That's not always easy to do. Really, it's not always easy to do. I mean, sometimes if you're in an emergency situation, even just a micro emergency situation, somebody cuts in front of you with their car and almost hits the front end of your car, almost causes an accident. Well, a lot of people are just going to start cussing up a storm right then and there, and I won't blame you if you do. I will not blame you if you do, but the aftermath of that, as soon as you're finished cussing, I would like you to forgive that person, and then forgive yourself for having the cussing response. And I won't get into those many layered options of cussing response. Just to let you know that as you start doing this, you're going to need to blow off steam, and sometimes that steam comes on pretty quick. Just don't forget the other part of the equation, and that other part of the equation is to forgive and to be forgiving of self and others. It's not just a one-time thing. Well, he did something to me, so he's the one that should be forgiven, not me. And sometimes that's absolutely the case. That's absolutely the case. But you still you forgive yourself for whatever you may have done, just being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you forgive that other person too. This is a big deal. This really helps the Kundalini flow. Because of the lack of evolution within the emotional body, the Kundalini will really, really, really push that growth. It will motivate a person to become more forgiving than they ever have been before in their life, and they'll actually have more reasons to forgive because of the various karmas that are being balanced and the various sensitivities that are being scratched, by the general public upon the Kundalini awakened person. So it's very, very important that we give forgiveness as a component of love, as a component of conscious positivity being expressed within your Kundalini awakening experience. It's really, it makes a huge, big difference. Evil is all over the place here. Evil is all over the place, and yet so is goodness. It's just that evil tends to cause people more pain than goodness, and so the shrieking is louder, the screams are louder, the squeak from the wheel, as some people like to use as an analogy, is louder. It's louder than the people that are having goodness occur to them, because they're not really complaining at all. It's because goodness is good. There's nothing to complain about. Badness, however, or evil, that is much less enjoyable, and so there's plenty to complain about with regards to the difficult evils in our society. Now, there are certain extremes that are going to be hard for people to swallow, and gosh, I'm just hesitating saying anything about it. There are certain extreme actions: murder, rape, molestations. These things, the Kundalini will not ignore these things. It will force you to deal with these issues too. Some of you have been molested. And in that way, I'm going to tie molestation and rape into the same scenario, even though I know molestation can be given through emotional attitudes as well. But I'm just going to go with the molestation and the rape. This is not good from a mundane perspective. This is absolutely not to be done. It is to be forbidden. It's to be punishable by years and years and years of being locked away, so that you consider the ramifications of your crime. Okay. Within the Kundalini, though, it's a little different. With Kundalini knows your karma. Kundalini knows what issues you have in your life that are to be made correct or to be made right. And you may have all of us have done the very bad things too. We don't get to be Kundalini awakened without having to to learn and to understand and to be educated upon the ramifications of extreme negativity or extreme positivity. Okay, because you're having the Kundalini in this life, and you may not be able to remember your karma, which is typically the case, by the way. And also be aware of people saying, "Oh, I can see in your karma past life that you were a mailman," or something like that. Don't buy into any of that. Okay, you go with what your Kundalini tells you. In order to be where you are right now, you've had to experience both sides of that coin, of that spiritual evolutionary coin, which we've also used as the Tao. Okay. Sometimes if you go too deep into darkness, if you go very, very deep into darkness, you'll see a light. And that light is the white eye of the dark water drop that is being chased by the white water drop that we're calling the Tao. Okay. And it's the same thing. If you go into the greatest goodness, well, there'll be a darkness there. An opportunity to become dark. An opportunity to express in a negative fashion, what your ego would tell you to express. So it's very important that you understand that within the Tao of this world, the Tao of this life, this Tao of your expressive Kundalini in this life, in this mundane life, there are levels of the Tao that are a loop. So, we'll just say that you're living in the white teardrop that represents the goodness, and you live there. You go from the tip of the tail to the top of the head of that, and then you go towards the eye, and you run right into darkness. And it's the same thing on the other side. Okay, it's a loop. And the only reason it's a loop is for you to educate yourself with. And it doesn't mean that you have to crush, kill, or destroy if you're living in the shadowy side. It doesn't mean that at all. It just means that you're surrounded by opportunities to express in a love-based, positive-based format. Kundalini does not see badness or goodness as the mundane mind sees it. Kundalini, at least the Kundalini that is expressing through me and has done so for the past 24 years, something like that, it's a much higher perspective. You can see that people have to live certain karmic expressions in order to burn the karma that they're here to balance or burn. When I say burn the karma, that means to balance it, to make it less expressive, to bring it into a level of balance that allows evolution to occur. Okay, not a blockage to evolution. Kundalini sees most of the darkness that is given to a person within a Kundalini awakening as a positive thing. Okay, in a way, for people inside of Kundalini, depending on their karma, of course, much of the Kundalini awakening experience is going to be through levels of density that are disguised as levels of like, say, depressing experience or negativity, all the way up through the positive states. Now, yes, you will live most of the time within the positive state if you have reached an area of your karmic balancing that allows you to live in that area. If you haven't reached it, well, there's still more of the shadow self to become familiar with. And you notice I'm not saying kill the shadow self, kill the dark side of the force. I'm not saying that at all, because in our nature we are very similar to electrical conduits. We need positive and negative in order for a current to flow. Okay, let's look at the world that we're born in. This world here, in order to do our Kundalini work. Well, we're born into Earth. We're born into a human mammal on this world. okay, we're born into a world that is predatory. Okay, the mammals eat the grass eats the minerals. The minerals, they're the backbone of the Shakti. The rock, the minerals, the dirt. These are all part of the sacred feminine. And so really from the get-go, we are produced and nurtured by sacred feminine Kundalini, or we'll call Shakti Kundalini, in order to achieve an evolutionary status that takes us beyond some of the more commonly expressed emotions in this world. Okay, so we're born in a predatory environment. In our first 7 years, we're taught literally how to be a predator. What kind of meat do you like? What kind of food do you like? What kind of, how do you like to respond to an attack? How do you choose to handle yourself from 0 to 7 years old? How do you choose to handle yourself when you're in a fearful state, or in a severely needy state, such as starving or hungry or too cold or too hot? How is this person able to handle themselves in these areas? And then, of course, we need to sprinkle into those first 7 years karma. We'll just call it karma dust. The Kundalini, the whole time, from gestation all the way to 7 years, is sprinkling karma dust all over the place. Setting up educations for that person to learn from, setting up situations where they're forced to deal with negative or positive situations in a way that is most focused for their karmic development to be given. So, getting back to the safeties, the reason why the safeties are so pronounced towards love and goodness, it's not because we're avoiding the shadow, it's just that there's so much of the shadow here. There's so much of the shadow here that the goodness wants to come forward in a very strong way, and the Kundalini allows that. And it will allow you to have this goodness while you're inside of your process. The reason being is that, it's very easy to go negative in this world, in this society. This society being the Western technological society, comprising lots of Asia, Europe, United States, some of South America, not so much Africa or native Australian, but certainly, within the Western components of those nations. So we are allowed to experience negativity, and we are guided to respond positively within it. This is a big deal because as people come into the Kundalini and they're given all these different lessons, and some they pass well, some they don't pass at all, and those get to be repeated. Within the difficulties of having a Kundalini life on this world, the first thing one has to understand is that Kundalini isn't one. Kundalini isn't just singular, as the people that like the Advaitists and the other people that are everything is one. Everything is not one here. This is the land of duality. This is the land of allowing us to explore what it is to become one. But we are not as yet one. With the Kundalini, we are able to become one and plural at the same time. So we become the two that are one, which is plural, and we are that oneness with divinity by virtue of the plurality. Kind of like your mom and dad. Well, your mom and dad got together and made a baby, so the two became one within that child. Okay. If you'd like to call in, the call-in number is area code 347-934-0026. United States area code 347-934-0026. If you have any questions about your Kundalini awakening experience, well, feel free to call in. If you have a comment that you want to make about your experiences with negativity or positivity, feel free to call in. Okay? So with the safeties, I am promoting forgiveness, love, selfless service, patience, tolerance, trust, all, very, very positive expressions. And the reason being is that right now, because of the Kundalini, we are being given an opportunity to stretch forward into the positive natures. You can almost see negativity and positivity as levels of density. Okay, with negativity, you have very, very dense levels of shall we say, material to move through. Big, heavy boulders over our heads that we have to lift and move out of the way. One boulder saying, "Revenge! Oh, God, it's so hard to lift that one. I'm going to have to exercise a little more before I can lift that one." And you exercise through forgiveness, of course. And so as we're able to move those big blockages out of our way, we're able to move into greater levels of positivity. And everybody's different with this. Not everybody has the same kind or level of density blockages. But as we move out of density into the less dense, we can also begin to breathe that air of positivity. We no longer have to reach into the rocks that we now stand upon, that we've had to move each rock individually out of the way so that we could evolve through it. We now stand on terra firma, so to speak, that are levels of positivity. Okay, but yet because we come from density, we understand that there are certain levels of density that have taught us certain things. Now we can also understand that there are certain lessons of positivity that will contradict directly the teachings that we've had to memorize as we came through the dense material. Okay, these teachings are of tolerance, or of forgiveness, or of love, or of service, or of honesty, or of truth, or of patience and diligence, and many of the qualities that the Kundalini enjoys in its flow and transformation of you. Now you got to remember, I'm talking about Kundalini awakened people here. I'm not talking about the general population. It's a completely different scenario with the general population. Okay. Well, not completely different. They're still they're buried in density. Okay, and they too can practice levels of karmic balancing, and that will bring them into a less dense area. But I'm talking specifically for Kundalini people now. The Kundalini person, as they explore the different vicissitudes of what it is to have Kundalini at all in the body, as you explore these expressions, you allow yourself to learn through trial and error. Okay, so with the Kundalini, if somebody hits you, even though they hit you unintentionally, and you turn around and you slap them right back, well, the Kundalini will give you a level of severe pain in your heart for not being forgiving, for not being tolerant. Yes, I used kind of a fairly difficult example there, getting slapped. That's never an enjoyable thing. But I think you get the message. Okay. Kundalini people have a different view of positivity and negativity, or density and or less dense. Okay, we have reached a certain level of our individual evolution that allows us to go forward into joining the Trinity, joining sacred male, sacred female as a third component of the Trinity that makes up those three expressions, and do it within a very, very positive context. There's a reason why we have bliss and ecstasy when we have Kundalini awakening. And it's not just because it's fun, even though it is. It's quite fun. Our positive natures are basically levels of density for divinity. So what we've done is we've gone from prima materia, which would be, say, the basic building blocks of life in a body, on a planet, breathing air, air-breathing creatures, bipedal mammals. We've come up and we have moved the heavy boulders out of the way, the boulders of revenge, of retribution, of anger, of craziness, and I mean craziness in a very negative way. We've moved through the levels of competition and cohabitation, and we moved all the way up into the light. Well, the light is the sacred male coming through the top of the person's head. It's also the sacred feminine doing what she does so well, which is breaking up through the soil like a tiny seedling, pushes the big blocks of soil out of the way until she reaches the light, and then of course the sacred male kisses that little plant with the light, and the unification has begun. It's the same with us. It's the same with us. Okay, we have reached that level of light. Well, that level of light to the divine person is like levels of density and boulders of the prima materia that we just left. So once again, they're going to help us, the divine nature that we'll call Kundalini. Kundalini is going to help us move through levels of virtuousness and positivity, goodness, love, tolerance, patience, trust, and beauty, and joy, and bliss, and ecstasy. It's going to allow us to move through those levels of grace towards a more permanent understanding of what it is to be both negative and positive at the same time. Kundalini will support this, will support this whole ideology. And within, I'm going to repeat this, within the understanding of a Kundalini awakening person, these are the only ones I'm talking about, Kundalini awakening people, there is no such thing as too negative or too hurtful unless it kills you. Okay, if the karma is there and the Kundalini wants you to balance it, well, then you will be given the opportunity not only to balance it, but to experience what it is that needs to be balanced. It's just not going to say, it's not going to send you a letter in the mail that says, well, Chrism, you were a little too belligerent with that last person who was being mean to you, and so, you have this to work on. It won't send you that paper. What it will send you is it will send you the instruction that I just kind of mimicked. That's kind of how it comes to me. It's like, oh, geez, I was too emotionally belligerent to this person, and I need to call them up and see if there's any ruffled feathers and make apologies or make balances where I'm being shown that they need to be made. And now, this is how the Kundalini comes to me. Now, it may come to you. You may get that letter in the mail. I can't say that won't happen. Kundalini works in very, 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 very strange and beautiful and fantastic and miraculous ways. So you just might get the letter in the mail saying, hey, Amelia Centaura, you killed that bug for no reason. Why? Why did you kill the bug, Amelia? You see. And then, of course, and I'm just using Amelia, she didn't really kill a bug that I know of, although I have my suspicions that it may have occurred. And if she ever comes on here again, well, you'll know. Oh, look who's here. Hello, Amelia.
Hi, Chrism.
Did you kill a bug? Did you kill a bug?
I just came on and heard that, so I have no idea what you said beforehand.
Well, say hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody. It's good to be here. I had to what's the word? I had to get rid of Skype and reinstall it on my iPad, and now it's working.
Oh, congratulations. I'll have to remember that technique. Now, let's see. Have you had any experiences of having to be pushed through the soil of negativity into the light?
Have I had... Say that again, Chrism, pardon me. Have I had any experience of what?
Of being pushed through the soil of negativity into the positivity of sunshine.
Oh, yes, I have indeed.
That would be like most of us. Like most of us.
Yes, I have indeed.
Okay, my dear, I'm going to go ahead and put you on hold here. I don't want to lose this stream of consciousness. Okay? Here she goes. Okay. Well, it's good to have her on board. It just wasn't feeling right. Okay, so as we come into the light of Kundalini, well, you have to understand that the Kundalini is changing us. Just the same way that the Shakti pushes the baby plant through those heavy boulders of rocks and animal feces and bugs and worms and predators and all of these things into the light, so are we as human plants being pushed through levels of negativity into the Kundalini light. And now that we have this light, now, just like the plant, well, the plant is going to grow leaves, and we're going to grow leaves, and the plant is going to form a blossom. Well, just the same thing that happens to us at the top of our head. The top of our head is that beautiful, energetic blossom, that Kundalini blossom that has only our signature on it. That's the Kundalini. That's the evolution. But it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop where our roots are growing into the soil, and our arms and leaves are stretching out into the sun, and our all of the plant analogies that we can make. It's a very accurate analogy, though, within a Kundalini context. We are basically Kundalini plants that are being opened to the divine sun. The divine sun. And I don't mean S-O-N, although I do sometimes mean the S-O-N as far as the sacred male. But I'm talking about the divine sun, the divine S-U-N, which exists in two places at the same time. The divine sun exists at the base of the Kundalini awakened spine, but also outside of the Kundalini awakened spine. Okay? So it's like a tendril of divinity is present within the base of the spine of someone who's going to awaken their Kundalini. But the rest of the sun is outside of that body. And so as we come into the Kundalini light, and we are changed into saints, and we are walking this world with saintly love and saintly forgiveness, and the any of the many abilities that come with being a saint, such as healing, such as becoming a world teacher, or or doing the many different things that a person can become with the Kundalini. At the same time, we are being propelled through the density of positivity. Does that make any sense to you? We're being propelled through the density of our positive natures to reach into the divine nature. So if you have the three natures, you have density, you have, so we'll say negativity, positivity, divinity. Okay. In order to get to divinity, we have to go through negativity and positivity to allow the flow to occur, and then from positivity into divine expression. That's the next level. That's the next level for all of us here. You know, everyone from Julie to Vashti to Tim Ashworth to all the different guests, 1965 to 1678, to Amelia, to Rosemary, who's listening on the phone, to Eileen, who's listening on the computer. We are all going through negativity to get to positivity, to get to divine consciousness. And so from a Kundalini perspective, everything that has happened to you that's negative, that's hurtful, that's however you want to phrase it, in a negative attitude, that was necessary. That had to happen. You know, I've talked with people that have been molested this life, they've been raped, they've been tortured, they've been hurt. Those things had to happen. And I know it's difficult. It is absolutely difficult. And it's supposed to be difficult. It's not supposed to be, easy peasy. It is difficult because, karma is all about righting a wrong, basically correcting a situation that you created at another experience, another time. Whether it's another time in this life or whether it's another time in another life, doesn't matter. It's there to be corrected. So if you were raped, if you were tortured, if you were abused emotionally, mentally, physically, all of the above, and now you have Kundalini, well, that's why it occurred. Because now you have Kundalini. Now you have a very healthy spark of divinity guiding you through negativity, the last vestiges of negativity, and the new areas of positivity into areas of divine expression. You have to get through negative and positive to get to divine. And that is the nature of good versus evil within a Kundalini context. You can't be evil and feel like you're getting rid of evil. Okay. Part of that system is that you have to change yourself in order to evolve. So many of you are going to still have roots and connections that dissolve and disappear into the soil of the negativity that has birthed you. Many of you will have those connections as well as having some of the positive connections that the Kundalini brings, but also some of the divine connections that Kundalini brings as well. It's not an either-or situation. What happens typically, as I am taught, is that as we're in the dense prima materia, which means primal material, as you're there in that dense level, well, levels of positivity reach down, and they reach down to pull you upwards. They pull you and they help you to figure out certain ways to get through all the negative expressions of, say, hatred, rage, greed, adversity, all the different levels Your positive nature is helping you to come through. And then Kundalini is seeping itself in there too, because it knows that this is your life to have Kundalini awakening, and it knows this. It sees this in your program. And so it's going to help you. Okay, and based upon your karma, will determine the levels of help that you receive. Okay, based upon your karma, will determine the levels of help that you receive from positivity and from the divine layers. And so as you mature your way through that, you make the right choices, you follow the positive choices, you become that loving, helpful, happy, service-oriented person, then the Kundalini steps up the amount of teaching that's coming directly from the divine. And this, of course, will come in the form of Kriyas. This will, of course, come in the form of entities. This will, of course, come in the form of miraculous happenings occurring to the person or around the person or to people that the person loves. Okay. When the divine begins to insert its will, well, that's when the miracles really start to occur. And so as you've gone through the negativity and you've reached up into the positivity, well, so is divinity reaching through both layers to help guide you into your evolution, but without denying you the lessons that you must learn as you come out of negativity. Okay? Now, if you have any questions about this, and I hope some of this is sticking with some of you, you can call in, and the number is the United States area code 347-934-0026. And it looks like I have about an hour left. It's hard to tell. The iPad says one thing, and the laptop says another thing, and they're only a minute off now, so that's cool. So yeah, so you have an hour to call in, unless I decide to end this earlier. Oh, hello, Fashti. I just saw that. The thing is when the Kundalini's finished, she's finished. You know, the teaching ends right then and there. And sometimes, as you may have, for those of you who have listened to more than one, you may notice that I've just given to end the show. Okay, that's how long that show was needing to be. I'll keep this one open a little bit later because there are a lot of questions that a person could ask about this, such as how do I know that the Kundalini is helping me when I am inside of a terrible situation? Well, the one thing that you can really take home with you is if you even have the word Kundalini in you, in your vocal experience, in the words that you use, if you have the word Kundalini there, it is already reaching in and helping you. And so inside of these difficult times, just say the word Kundalini. Just say it to yourself. Let that be a one-word mantra to you. Kunalini, Kundalini, Kundalini. Let yourself say this to yourself as you go through these difficult experiences. And the Kundalini will not take that experience away from you, but it will help you to migrate to the next karma balancing experience. It'll help you migrate to that next experience. And so that is a big deal. That is a big deal. So, for instance, we get back to the molestation. If a person's been molested in their life and, they have a real problem with it, I mean, as a person would, but, they're getting into rage and they're getting into very, very bright expressions of anger. The Kundalini will seep into that anger, begin to pull away the blockages to the person coming into balance with that. Okay, and that will typically come up as a blockage for the person. So this is the Kundalini's way. It is not, it's not assigning a moral judgment to goodness and badness, except as our society gives us to do. So murder is bad, molestation is bad. Well, that occurred, and that occurred more than once, or you wouldn't be given the opportunity to experience it and move through it. So it happened with you first, or you wouldn't be having that experience as a child. Children are it's a rough place to be a child inside of a Kundalini awakened event, because they're so defenseless when it comes to these types of situations. And yet they are not defenseless, because the Kundalini is sitting there with them the whole time going, okay, little Chrism, now it's time for you to burn off this new level of karma. Here we go. And little Chrism is put into a situation where, he needs to be forgiving, or he needs to defend himself, or he needs to defend another person, or he needs to, whatever it is, clean his room. Any of the different things that we do as children that allow us to come through socially intact, i.e., little Chrism didn't murder his mother because she told him to clean the room. Which wouldn't have happened because my mom could beat me up at that time. That is the protocol. Just like a plant, just like a seed that is dropped in the dark, dark, dark soil. And in here, if it's dropped in the soil right now, it's the dark, frosted soil. We don't have permafrost here, but we have some 24-hour frosting going on. And then that seed has to, first of all, crack open. So the exact environmental conditions have to be met for that seed to germinate. Well, the germination occurs. The baby plant is born, and now it's got to send out its roots and its little spider web of veins into the soil and to pull those nutrients from the soil. But it has to move all those rocks or go around those rocks or find a way to get to the sunlight. Now, this is where most of the population on the world is right now. Okay. And that is within a Kundalini construct. For those Kundalini awakening people, most of the people are still in the soil, struggling to get their way into the sun or into a greater level of sun. Well, as they come closer to the surface of the soil, the light's going to become more and more and more and more intense. And as that light becomes more and more and more intense, so does the positivity become more and more and more intense. And there are levels of positivity that can just burn you to a crisp. If you're not evolutionary, if you're not able from an evolved standpoint to stand in that kind of light, well, it can just burn you to a crisp, just like standing on the surface of the sun. Okay, and that is a correct analogy. With that, your level of grace that has followed you through the soil of this earth, this negativity, helping you push away this blockage and that blockage, and allowing you to prosper and promote the Kundalini awakening that's happening within you. Well, once you come up to that light, you have had levels of light beginning to form a bond with you the whole time. Okay. You've had that level of light. And so as the level of light increases and you come closer and closer and closer to the surface, well, your Kundalini activity is going to increase and increase and increase to the point where you can stand in that light. But as you stand in that light, it accelerates into another level of transformative purification. Okay. And this is where the divine light begins to transform you, change you. You begin to feel wings growing on the shoulder blades, and all of these things. These are real. These are not. I'm not talking fiction here. The origin of humans with wings has a lot more to do with fact than fantasy. And one of those facts is Kundalini. One needs to have that first. Okay. So without going too much further into that, and I will in another program, the Kundalini will give you very special tools, very special gifts that will allow you to have that greater awareness and experience of divine light that would have burned you before. But now that you've been walking this path for a while, well, you get a little bit of an umbrella, some sort of an umbrella. It's an umbrella that's formed by your own radiance at the temples on the human head, a level of radiance like a corona comes out of the temples on both sides, and also comes out the sixth chakra, and encircles the head with a spiky band of light. And the reason why I say spiky is because it's very much like, if you look at the Statue of Liberty in the United States, she has these, I believe they call her Columbia. Columbia has this light coming through these spikes on her head, and it's basically showing a rendition of a person that has a halo, a radiance around their head at the temples. And this is what the Kunalini person will have. And that will grow stronger and stronger. You actually feel it. You can actually feel the spikiness of it too. But this is what forms the umbrella. And the umbrella isn't there to keep the light out. It's there to bring more light in, but in a way that doesn't damage the individual. This is why I try to tell people to go easy on the marijuana, go easy, take out the alcohol, take out the methamphetamine, take out all of these drugs, because they injure the seventh chakra, and they can keep it from doing the excellent job that it's here to do for you. So yeah, you are being conditioned. You are on a triple evolutionary path, from density to positivity to divinity. Think about that. And if you'd like to call in, the number to call in is United States area code 347-934-0026. And I'm going to bring this over to Rosemary. Say hello to Rosemary. Oh, right. I was treating it like an iPad. I need to put... Here we go. Okay. Punching the button. Hi, Rosemary.
Hi.
How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm good. I'm examining my life here.
As everyone should be. But you have done it, my dear. You've been a nun for how many years? 28 years?
25.
25 years you were a nun, and you went into the I almost called it a nunnery. That's my bad. The convent at an early age, right out of high school, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you've been following this light for a while, and this light has been following you for a while. I mean, isn't it interesting? What made you leave the convent and come into Kundalini? What happened to you there, Rosemary?
Well, those things were not connected time-wise like I would see them, but I believe all of that. When you say a Kundalini signature, I really do believe that, and I like believing it and knowing that it's true for all of us in some way. I was 25 years there, and I just realized it wasn't giving me anything. And my spiritual life was being nurtured from outside the home in which I lived. And I said, it's backwards. And it was not clear. Like, and it was the hardest thing I had done to that time in my life, because I went in right after high school, and that, things like at that age, 42, 43, I bought my first car. It's amazing when I look back at it, and it was exciting in some ways, but it also was, it was hard. And I was saying I didn't know who I was. I remember when I realized it wasn't something I was obliged to do, and that my spiritual life could grow outside of the walls of the convent. And I think that's probably what I remember exactly where I was driving when I said, I don't have to do this.
Well, what took you to the Kundalini?
Well, that was just 2 years ago, and I don't know that. Consciously. I read it in the Edge magazine, and it was an article on service. The theme was service, and it was an interview with you about service, and I said, that's really lovely. And there was, after that article, Eileen's information, and I did that and called her. And it was just like, I didn't know what Kundalini was for sure. I had heard the word one other time, and so I just listened. I was guided, yes.
And she came, everybody. She came to the seminar in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, that Eileen Laurel had set up. Mm-hmm. And out of the 9 people that showed up, she was one of 2 that had immediate response. One of 2, but she also had to do a practice. She had to show her Kundalini that she was willing to do a practice, and it's from that practice that some of her major experiences came. Is that right?
Yes, I do believe that, and through your guidance and your willingness and your patience, and I would go back to saying, when you were talking about the suffering, and I thought about it for myself of what was there, because you would need that, and the hardest thing was a couple years after I left, it was a very lovely little story. I met this dear man sitting in the church pew one Sunday morning, and we married a couple years after that, and he was older than I, and we had 12 years of marriage, and he died suddenly. And that was the hardest thing I had done. I think that was even harder than when I left the community. But to go through that grieving process, and it is a purification. It's very difficult, and it is everywhere in you.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Rosemary, for telling us about that, and I want to say that the doors of the ashram here are opening to you and your visit later on in the first of the year. So just so you know that we're ready for you, and we're going to get things going on a higher level for yourself, my dear.
Well, that too is interesting, because I'm working at trying to get things to be okay here, so that when I go, and it's amazing to even think of doing that. We're coming for more than a... Mm-hmm.
It is, but I just want you to know that you're an amazing woman, and everything that's being done with you is has a purpose, has a reason, has an agenda. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for listening to this and all the other interviews that you've come on with. Thank you very much, Rosemary.
Thank you.
I'm going to put you back on hold here. And I'll bring Mr. Foshji out. Hello, Mr. Foshji. Hello.
Well, how is it you knew that it was me?
Amelia helped me with that.
I just wanted to say that there is, and I think I've used this term before, a gesture of friendship that we open up to the Kundalini, the Shakti Kunalini, and when we do, we open the door through our acceptance to receive the guidance and the protection. To be specific, as you know, I've been having some issues physically, but the Kundalini led me to one of the files that are on KAS1. It is the Science of Breath. I don't know who posted it, but I started to go through it, and I started to do a particular exercise to eradicate pain in the body, and certainly it did work. I don't know how it worked, but it did in fact work. And I wanted to thank you or whoever posted that for placing it there for me. I didn't really know how to deal with the pain, and a lot of times it makes you a bit irrational. It makes you seek help in a lot of different ways that aren't necessary.
Right.
I surrendered to that, and I was able to speed along the reparation or the healing of this condition in my body. And I just wanted to thank you, and I wanted to say that it's important that we realize that once we have established this openness or this gesture of friendship with the Kundalini, it will indeed speak with us. And it is always in such a quiet voice that we often feel that we are imagining that we're hearing this. But yet if we are able to take the leap of faith and pardon me.
It's okay.
And do what we are advised to do.
Are you having bliss?
Yes. When we are able to do what we are advised to.
It's hard to talk when you have bliss, huh?
I'm just so grateful to you, Chrism.
No.
And what you do, and what you allow to come through. That I just wanted to come on and say thank you. It is all true, whether our rational minds want to accept it or not. It is there. It is truly there. And that's pretty much all I have to say. It's getting better day by day. I'm not in a hurry. And because I guess I'm not in a hurry, it is moving quite rapidly. And I'm so grateful.
Well, I am grateful for your presence here too, and for your wife. You know, she is also a big part of this equation. And
yes.
Yeah. I
You saw her picture, huh? Yes.
So yeah. Well, thank you for calling in and for giving us the grace that's coming through you. It's much appreciated, Fashji.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, bye. Okay, so there we have it. From Fashji and from Rosemary. I haven't heard from Amelia yet, but I'm sure she's storing one up for us here. We'll go over here right now and see what's going on with Her Holiness there in kingdom of Carrie. Hello.
Hi, Chrism. It's very good to hear Fashti speaking and Rosemary, and I just want to say thanks for that. I'm excited for Rosemary. It's wonderful that she's going to the ashram, so blessings to her on that journey. Do you know what I want to say, Chrism? I mean, I was listening to it, and again, you know, just thinking about my own life and the positives and the negatives. And one of the things I'd like to say is how much the safeties have made a difference in my life. You know, the practicing them, that has really helped me, you know, to move through the density, to move through the negativity. Because I respond by you know, being committed to the safeties, I respond in a different way than I might have responded. And so they have been extremely beneficial because they are positivity of itself, you know. They've just been so helpful. So I want to thank you for those and thank the Kundalini Shakti for those through you. And they have made a difference in my life. That's all I have to say.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Amelia. Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you all for joining us here today. Basically, everything came out the way it wanted to have it come out, the Kundalini, and I just want you to know that as you listen to this, I would suggest, even those of you that are online right now, that are listening in the chat room, I will suggest that you listen to these talks again, because it is, the Kundalini is in the voice. Listen to the voice. Hear the voice. Even if, I would almost wish you didn't understand English. I wish I could say it in Swahili or something, so you could just take advantage of the energy that is coming to you in the voice. The Kundalini rides the voice, and it is riding my voice as we do this broadcast, which is why I feel these broadcasts can be so very, very helpful to a person inside of this experience, or to a person who is being gravitated towards this experience. And it's for those people that are just starting to feel the gravitational pull. And they don't know what's going on. They just feel a pull to do certain things in certain ways, and they're just going with it. Well, this information is for you as well. And typically you'll visit this in the archives, and I want to say hello and welcome to everybody who's hearing this in the archives. I'm going to put Amelia back on for her announcements. Go ahead, Amelia, with your announcements that you usually do.
Okay. Well, I'll begin with the seminars. We're going to be having 2 seminars happening at the beginning of the year in March 2014. The first one is going to be in New York, in the New York area, and that's happening on the 22nd and the 23rd of March. So if you're living in that area or on the East Coast and you're interested in coming to that seminar, please contact me and I can give you more information. That would be on kundalinimatters@gmail.com. And then the following weekend, there's going to be another Kundalini Awakening seminar in Ireland, and this is going to be held in Newgrange, County Meath, and on the 29th and 30th of March. So again, if you have an interest in attending that, please contact me, and I can help you with how to get there. It's very easy to get there now from Europe. It's a very short journey, and people that arrived to the last seminar were delighted that they came, because it's only an hour, maybe 2 hours at the most to get to the venue. So again, write to me on kundalinimatters@gmail.com, and we can talk there, and I can give you more information. There's also a page on, I also have a page on Facebook about it, but I don't have the web address for that. The other thing that I'd like to announce again is, if you want to make a donation to support Kundalini Awakening Systems and the work that Chrism does, you can go to this address, and on the top right-hand side, there's a donate button where you can make a donation. And all donations are very much gratefully received. The address for that is www.ascension-kundalini.blogspot.com. That's www.ascension-kundalini.blogspot.com. So thank you very much. That's it, Chrism.
Well, thank you very much, Amelia. Thank you for correcting it. It's Ascension Kundalini, right?
Is that what
Ascension
Kundalini? Yes.
Ascension dash Kundalini.
Yes.
Okay.
Ascension
well, thank you. And I want to thank John, because I know he's up there listening on the other computer, right?
Right.
So thank you, John. Thank you, John, and thank you, everybody there in Ireland. Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and unless other people have some questions, they can call in at area code 347-934-0026. That's the United States area code. But if there are no more questions, I would like to say thank you, everyone, for coming and listening and spread it around. Spread it around. If you know people that are having Kundalini or, they may be in a hard place, get them over to these conversations. They're free. The worst thing that can happen is you're a better person for listening to it. Really, really take advantage of what John and Amelia are allowing to come into the world information. It's very important stuff, and it can be very helpful for that one person. If it keeps that one person out of the psych ward or from committing suicide, then the job is well done. Anyway, I would like to say thank you to Celestial Rubies, to Fashti, to Rosemary, to Guest 1678, 1740, 1791, 1825, 1965, 2025, and 2125, and Tim Ashworth, coming to you from St. Rose or Santa Rosa, California. Look forward to having another conversation about your Kundalini awakening experience next week. Goodbye.